The first time I realized my home wasn't mine anymore, it wasn't during an argument. It was in the quiet. It was the way the air felt colder in the hallway, even though the heat was on. The way my mother-in-law started walking through rooms like she was counting them. Like she was measuring where my life could be trimmed down to a suitcase. And the worst part? My husband was already gone. I remember standing at the kitchen sink that morning, hands submerged in warm dishwater, watching a single bubble cling to the edge of a plate like it was refusing to let go. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up, trash truck groaning down the street, someone's dog barking 2 houses over, a lawn sprinkler clicking like a metronome. Inside, the house smelled like lemon soap and old grief. I'd been living in that smell for months. You don't understand how heavy a home can feel after a funeral until you've walked through it alone. Every room becomes a memory you didn't ask to carry. The couch still held the faint dip where my husband, Marcus, used to sit and rub his temples after work. The closet still smelled like his cologne, even though I'd washed the sweaters twice. The garage still had his tools lined up like soldiers waiting for a commander who wasn't coming back. When Marcus died, people told me the same things they always tell a widow. You're strong. He would want you to be okay. Time will heal. Time doesn't heal anything by itself. Time just sits there, watching you decide whether you're going to survive or fall apart. And I was surviving. Barely. But I was. I had routines now. The kind you build when you don't trust your emotions. Up at 6. Coffee at 6:10. Shower at 6:40. Work by 8. And in between all that, the small act of pretending the world was still shaped like it used to be. Marcus and I didn't have children. We'd tried, and after enough doctors and enough polite disappointment, we learned how to hold joy without holding a baby. We poured our energy into our marriage, our jobs, our home. This house, 2 stories, white siding, a small garden Marcus insisted on maintaining even though he was terrible at it, was our biggest pride. We bought it 8 years into our marriage. We painted it together. We argued over tile samples in the kitchen. We laughed until we cried on moving day because Marcus dropped the box labeled fragile, and it turned out to be nothing but throw pillows. That was our life, ordinary, warm, real. And then cancer took Marcus like a thief with clean hands. He fought hard. He really did. But there's a point where the fight becomes less about winning and more about dignity. In the final weeks, Marcus stopped talking much. He'd just hold my hand and stare at the ceiling as if he was trying to memorize how light moved across it. The night before he passed, he squeezed my fingers 3 times, our little code for I love you. His eyes were glassy, but he looked at me like he was trying to say something else too. Something urgent. I didn't know then that he'd already been thinking ahead about what might happen after he was gone. At the funeral, my mother-in-law, Denise, played her role perfectly. Denise was the kind of woman who knew how to cry without ruining her makeup. Her grief was theatrical, hand pressed to chest, eyes lifted upward, voice trembling just enough for people to lean in. When she hugged me at the viewing, she whispered, "We're going to get through this, sweetheart." But her arms were stiff. And her perfume, heavy, powdery, expensive, made me feel like I couldn't breathe. I had never been Denise's favorite person. Not because I did anything wrong. Not because I was cruel or careless. Simply because I took her son away from being her center. Denise raised Marcus alone after his father walked out. I always respected that. I even admired her strength. But admiration doesn't erase possessiveness. And Denise's love for Marcus came with strings, tight ones. In the early years of my marriage, she'd show up unannounced. Rearrange my pantry. Comment on my cooking like she was a judge on a competition show. "Oh, you use jarred garlic?" she'd say, her face pinched like she'd tasted something sour. Marcus loves fresh. If I bought new curtains, she'd ask Marcus if he liked them, not me. It was always like that, little reminders that I wasn't fully trusted inside the family he came from. Still, after Marcus died, Denise came around more. At first, I told myself it was love. Grief makes people cling. She brought casseroles I didn't eat. She folded towels in my laundry room without asking. She sat in my living room and told stories about Marcus as a child, like she was claiming him again. Sometimes I let her. Because there was comfort in hearing him spoken about like he still existed somewhere. And sometimes I didn't have the energy to fight. But then, the tone shifted. It was subtle at first. Denise began calling the house Marcus's home. Not your home. Not the home you two built. Just Marcus's. One afternoon, she stood in the doorway of the kitchen, watching me wipe down the counters. She looked around like she was evaluating property. You know, she said softly, Marcus always wanted to make a few changes in here. I paused. He did. She nodded, like it was obvious. He told me once he wanted darker cabinets. Something more mature. I stared at her, confused, because Marcus never said that. Marcus loved these cabinets because I picked them, and he loved anything I was excited about. But I didn't argue. I just said, oh. Denise smiled. Not warmly. Just politely. Then she started asking questions. The kind of questions that sound innocent but aren't. Are you still paying the mortgage okay? Do you have enough saved? Have you spoken to an attorney yet? At first I thought she meant well. Widowhood is messy. Paperwork, bills, insurance. It can drown you if you're not careful. So I told her the truth. Marcus had life insurance. I'm managing. I've started the probate process. Denise's eyes sharpened at the word probate, like she'd been waiting for it. What did Marcus leave you? She asked, too quickly. I felt my stomach tighten. Denise, he left me everything. We're married. Her lips pressed together. Well, yes. But sometimes men intend things they don't write down. That sentence stayed with me like a splinter. Because it wasn't grief speaking. It was strategy. Still, I tried to be generous. People don't always behave well when they're hurting. And Denise had lost her son. But one Saturday morning, I came downstairs and found her in my dining room with a folder open on the table. Not her purse. Not her phone. A folder. She didn't hear me at first. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock above the fireplace. She was reading something intently, lips moving slightly, like she was practicing lines. Then she sensed me. She closed the folder too fast. The papers inside made a sharp slap sound. And she smiled like nothing happened. Oh, you're up, she said brightly. I didn't mean to wake you. My mouth went dry. What's that? Denise slid the folder closer to herself, fingertips resting on it like a lid. Just some things. Estate-related. My heart thudded once. Hard. Estate-related? I repeated. She nodded, too calm. I'm just trying to help you stay organized. Marcus would want things handled properly. The way she said properly made my skin prickle. I looked at the folder. It was thick. Official-looking. And on the top page, for just a second before she pulled it down, I saw words printed in bold. Notice. Occupancy. Transfer. My hands went cold. I forced my voice to stay even. Denise, why do you have paperwork about occupancy? She blinked slow, like she was deciding how much truth to give me. Then she offered a small, careful smile. Sweetheart, she said, I'm just making sure you understand what's next. And right then, standing in my own dining room, I felt the floor of my life shift. Because in Denise's mind, there was already a next. And it didn't include me living there. Denise's smile stayed on her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. I stood there in my socks, hair still damp from the shower, and felt like I'd walked into somebody else's courtroom, where the verdict had already been decided and I just hadn't been told yet. What's next? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She tilted her head like I was being dramatic. Oh, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying you have to rush. I'm just being realistic. The word realistic landed like a slap. I glanced at the folder again. She had her hand on it the way people hold down a secret. Like if she pressed hard enough, the truth wouldn't crawl out. I didn't ask you to handle estate paperwork, I said. My throat felt tight. I already have an attorney. Denise's expression didn't change, but her posture did. Her shoulders squared. Her chin lifted. Attorneys cost money, she said. And money disappears fast when you're grieving. There it was. Not concern. Calculation. I walked closer, palms damp. Denise, whose name is on this house? She hesitated, just a breath too long. Marcus's, she said. My stomach turned. And mine, I corrected. It's both of ours. We bought it together. She waved a hand like my words were minor details. I'm not saying you didn't contribute. I'm saying Marcus was my son, and I know what he wanted. I stared at her. You keep saying that, but you don't know what he wanted more than I do. Denise's eyes narrowed. Don't be disrespectful. Disrespectful. It was almost funny, in that bitter way grief makes you laugh at the wrong times. My husband was dead, and I was being scolded in my own dining room like a teenager caught with a cigarette. I took a deep breath and said the only thing that mattered. What exactly is in that folder? Denise tapped it once, lightly. Information. Options. Things you'll need to consider. Consider what? I asked. She leaned forward, voice dropping softer, like she was about to tell me something kind. This house is large. Too large for one person. And memories can be heavy. Sometimes a fresh start is best. I didn't blink. Are you trying to get me out? Her eyes flicked away for a fraction of a second, then came back steady. I'm trying to protect my son's legacy. My chest tightened like an invisible hand squeezed it. My husband is not a legacy, I said quietly. He's a person. And I was his wife. Denise inhaled, slow, and for the first time, the softness in her voice disappeared. You're young, she said. You'll move on. You'll remarry. You'll start over somewhere else. I felt something cold wash through me. It wasn't just the implication. It was how certain she sounded. How comfortable she was imagining my future without Marcus, as if my grief was temporary, but her claim was permanent. What if I don't remarry? I asked. Denise shrugged. People always say that in the beginning. The clock ticked above us. Tick, tick, tick. I could hear the refrigerator hum. I could smell coffee left too long in the pot. And in that ordinary morning soundscape, Denise was quietly dismantling my life. I stepped back. I need you to leave. Her eyebrows lifted. Excuse me. I need you to leave, I repeated, clearer this time. My hands shook, but I kept them at my sides. Now. Denise closed the folder slowly, like she was humoring me. I'm not your enemy, she said. You're just emotional right now. I'm emotional, I said, voice rising despite my effort, because my husband died and you're sitting at my table with eviction paperwork. Denise stood. No one said eviction. I pointed to the folder. I saw the words. Don't insult me. She sighed, dramatic, like I was the difficult one. You can't stay here forever. Marcus would want you to be practical. There it was again. Marcus would want. Marcus always wanted. It hit me then, sharp and clear, like someone finally turned on the lights in a room I'd been walking through blind. Denise wasn't mourning. Denise was waiting. Waiting for me to be weak enough. Confused enough. Grief-stricken enough to sign something I didn't understand. I didn't say another word. I walked to the front door and opened it. Denise stared at me, a flicker of anger crossing her face, but she grabbed her purse. As she walked past me, she stopped just long enough to whisper, "We'll talk again. This isn't over." Then she stepped out into the sunlight like she hadn't just threatened a widow in her own home. I closed the door and my knees almost buckled. I didn't cry right away. I stood there with my hand still on the doorknob, breathing shallowly, trying to understand how quickly love could turn into a legal strategy. And then, I walked back to the dining room. The chair she'd been sitting in was still pulled out slightly. A faint scent of her perfume lingered in the air, powdery, expensive, suffocating. I stared at the spot where the folder had been. My mind raced. If Denise already had paperwork, that meant she'd been preparing. Meeting with someone. Gathering information. Possibly even speaking to an attorney behind my back. And if she was doing all that, there had to be more. So I did something I hadn't done since Marcus's diagnosis, something I'd been avoiding because it felt too grown up, too final. I opened the filing cabinet in the office. Marcus's office, technically. The room where he used to pay bills, print out travel itineraries, keep warranty manuals for appliances like that was a hobby. The cabinet squeaked when I pulled it open, like it was protesting being disturbed. Inside were folders labeled in Marcus's tidy handwriting. Mortgage. Insurance. Taxes. Medical. Will and trust. My hands paused on that last one. Will and trust. I swallowed hard and pulled it out. The folder felt heavier than paper should feel. Inside were copies of the will, the trust documents, the deeds, everything neat, everything official, everything Marcus had insisted on organizing years ago, just in case. I hadn't wanted to look, because reading a will feels like admitting someone is gone. But now, the truth was simple. Denise wasn't going to stop. And grief wasn't going to protect me. I sat down at the desk and started reading. Every page. Every signature. Every clause. At first, it was a blur of legal words and cold sentences. Then my eyes caught something that made my stomach drop. A section labeled, Contingent Interest/Beneficiary Considerations. And right beneath it, Denise's name. Not as the owner. Not as the primary beneficiary. But as someone who had been considered and excluded. My breath caught. Marcus had thought about her. He had anticipated something. And he had made choices. But why would Denise believe she had any claim at all? Unless she was planning to twist something, forge something, challenge something. My fingers tightened around the paper. Then I remembered something Marcus had done in the last months of his life, something I dismissed at the time as him being overly cautious. He had asked me to keep a small envelope in my personal drawer, the one Denise never touched. Don't lose it, he'd said, voice weak but firm. If anything gets messy, you'll need it. At the time, I thought he meant medical bills. Now I wasn't so sure. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. My heart pounded as I walked to the bedroom and pulled open my nightstand drawer. The envelope was still there. Plain white. No label. My hands trembled as I held it, feeling the weight inside. And for the first time since Marcus died, I felt something other than grief. I felt focus. Because whatever Denise thought she was doing, Marcus had already seen the storm coming, and he had left me an umbrella. I sat on the edge of the bed with that envelope in my hands for a long time before I opened it. The room was quiet in that heavy afternoon way, sunlight cutting across the quilt Marcus's aunt had made us years ago. The ceiling fan hummed softly above me, steady and indifferent, like the world hadn't just shifted again. The envelope looked ordinary. Too ordinary to carry the weight it did. Marcus had handed it to me one evening after chemo, when his voice was thin and his hands shook just enough to scare me. He'd slid it into my palm and closed my fingers around it like he was afraid I'd drop it. Promise me you won't open it unless you have to, he'd said. I promised. And then I forgot about it, because hope makes you careless and denial makes you brave in all the wrong ways. Now, with Denise's voice echoing in my head, this isn't over, I broke the seal. Inside were 3 things. A folded letter, a USB drive, and a photocopy of a notarized document I had never seen before. My breath hitched. I unfolded the letter first. Marcus's handwriting was shaky, but unmistakable. Each word looked like it had cost him effort, like he'd wrestled it onto the page. If you're reading this, it began, then something has gone wrong. My chest tightened. I don't want to scare you, but I need you to know the truth, especially about my mother. I closed my eyes for a moment, pressing the letter to my chest. Marcus had known. He continued. I love my mother, but love doesn't erase patterns. She has always believed what's mine is hers by extension. When I got sick, she asked questions not about you, but about the house, the accounts, the paperwork. My stomach dropped. She doesn't think she's doing harm. She thinks she's protecting something that belongs to her. But I need you to be protected too. My eyes blurred, but I forced myself to keep reading. Everything is legally yours. The house, the accounts, the insurance. I made sure of it. But I also know she may try to challenge it or pressure you when you're vulnerable. My hand shook. That's why I documented everything. I looked down at the USB drive like it might bite me. The letter ended with words that broke me open. You were my home. This house is just wood and nails. Don't let anyone take either from you. I folded the letter carefully and set it aside. Then I turned to the notarized document. It was an affidavit. Marcus's affidavit. Signed, dated, witnessed. In it, he stated clearly, plain language, no room for interpretation, that he intended for me to remain in the home indefinitely. That his mother had no ownership interest, no occupancy rights, and no authority over the property. But what caught my breath wasn't the legal clarity. It was the last paragraph. I am making this statement because I believe my mother may attempt to remove my wife from our home after my death. This affidavit reflects my explicit wishes. The room spun. He had known. He had prepared. And suddenly, Denise's confidence made sense. She wasn't ignorant. She was counting on me being too broken to fight back. I wiped my face and picked up the USB drive. I hesitated before plugging it into my laptop, heart thudding in my ears like I was about to open a door I couldn't close again. When the screen lit up, a single folder appeared. For my wife. Inside were recordings. Audio files. Dated. Timestamped. My throat went dry. I clicked the first one. Marcus's voice filled the room, thin, tired, but steady. I'm recording this because my mother asked me today what would happen to the house if something happened to me. I covered my mouth. She asked if you'd need help finding somewhere else. Those were her words. The recording paused briefly, like he'd had to catch his breath. I told her the house belongs to you. She didn't like that. My heart pounded. Another file. Another day. She said it wouldn't be right for you to stay here alone. That it should come back to family. I told her you are my family. My hands clenched into fists. File after file, Marcus calmly documented conversations I'd never known about. Denise questioning. Denise pushing. Denise suggesting. Never shouting. Never threatening. Just positioning herself. By the time the final recording ended, my face was wet and my chest hurt. I sat there in the quiet, laptop still glowing, the truth settling into my bones. Denise hadn't just crossed a line after Marcus died. She'd been planning this before he was gone. And she'd underestimated one thing. Marcus's love for me was louder than her entitlement. That night, I didn't sleep much. Instead, I organized. I made copies of everything, digital and physical. I called my attorney first thing in the morning and told her I needed an urgent meeting. When I walked into her office, I didn't feel like a grieving widow anymore. I felt like a witness. She listened carefully as I explained everything, her face growing more serious by the minute. When I handed her the affidavit and the USB drive, she exhaled slowly. This, she said, tapping the documents, is very strong. I swallowed. Strong enough to stop her? My attorney nodded. Strong enough to shut her down. Relief washed through me, but it wasn't clean. It was edged with sadness. Because no matter how justified I felt, this was still a mother trying to erase her son's wife. That afternoon, my attorney sent a formal letter to Denise. Clear. Firm. Unemotional. Cease and desist. No claim. No authority. No further contact regarding the property. I didn't hear from Denise for 3 days. And then, she showed up. Unannounced. Again. This time, I didn't feel cold. I felt ready. I knew it was Denise before I even opened the door. There's a certain way someone knocks when they believe they still have power over you. Not hesitant. Not polite. Confident. Measured. 3 firm taps. I stood in the hallway, heart steady, hands calm at my sides. For the first time since Marcus died, my grief wasn't leading, I was. When I opened the door, Denise stood there dressed like she was attending a meeting, not confronting the woman she'd tried to displace. Tailored blazer. Neutral lipstick. Hair perfectly set. She glanced past me into the house, her eyes sweeping the entryway like she was checking inventory. We need to talk, she said. I didn't step aside. I think you've said everything you needed to say, I replied. Her jaw tightened. I received a very unpleasant letter. I imagine you did. Denise exhaled sharply and crossed her arms. You didn't have to involve lawyers. I held her gaze. You involved paperwork in my home. You forced my hand. Her eyes flickered, just a little. Not fear. Frustration. I was trying to protect my son's interests, she said. My husband protected mine, I answered. While he was alive. She scoffed. You're twisting this. No, I said quietly. You are. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The afternoon breeze stirred the wind chimes Marcus hung years ago. Soft metal clinks filled the space between us. Denise shifted her weight. This house should stay in the family. It is, I said. I'm his family. She shook her head slowly, like she was disappointed in me. You don't understand what it means to raise a child alone. Everything I sacrificed. I understand sacrifice, I replied. I held your son's hand while he died. That landed. Her eyes hardened, but her voice wavered just a touch. He was my son. And he was my husband, I said. And he chose. That word, chose, changed something in her face. She straightened. You think a few documents mean more than blood? I think truth means more than entitlement. Denise's lips pressed thin. You always were clever. I worried about that. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, you underestimated grief. You thought it made me weak. She stared at me. I was weak, I continued. But I wasn't careless. Silence stretched. Finally, Denise said, so what now? Now, I replied, you respect my boundaries. She lifted an eyebrow. Or what? Or everything you tried to do quietly becomes public. Her breath caught. I don't want revenge, I said evenly. I want peace. But I won't be bullied out of my life. Denise's gaze dropped to the threshold. For the first time, she looked old, tired, smaller than she'd ever seemed. I lost my son, she whispered. I lost my partner, I answered. And I won't lose my home too. She nodded once. A stiff, begrudging nod. Without another word, Denise turned and walked away. I closed the door gently. Inside, the house felt different. Lighter. Like it had been holding its breath and finally let go. But Denise wasn't done, not really. A week later, I heard the whispers. A cousin called, awkward and hesitant. I just wanted to check on you, she said. Your mother-in-law's been talking. Talking turned out to mean telling people I was heartless. That I'd shut her out. That I was keeping her son's house from her. I didn't correct her publicly. I didn't defend myself in group chats or social media posts. I let the truth speak quietly. When Denise attempted to bring the matter to extended family, hinting at court, at injustice, my attorney responded with facts. Copies. Evidence. The affidavit. The recordings. The will. Word travels fast when it's carried by documents instead of emotion. Invitations stopped coming to Denise's phone. Conversations grew shorter. Support thinned. No one shamed her outright. They simply stopped agreeing with her. And that, more than any argument, changed the power dynamic. I wasn't vindictive. I didn't celebrate. I mourned. Because it's a strange thing to realize someone you tried to love was waiting for you to fall. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. Not just the house, but myself. I repainted the dining room the color Marcus always joked was too calm for real life. I planted new flowers in the garden, ones that didn't remind me of him, but didn't erase him either. I went to grief counseling. I learned how to breathe through anger without letting it rot inside me. And I learned something else too. Protection isn't about walls. It's about clarity. Denise never came back. Sometimes I think about her, sitting somewhere with her grief and her pride tangled together, and I hope, truly, that she finds peace. But it's not my job to give it to her. My job is to live. To honor Marcus not by shrinking, but by standing where he placed me. In our home. Unmoved. Life didn't return to normal after that. It found a different rhythm. The house stopped feeling like a battlefield and started feeling like a place I could exhale again. Mornings came softer. Evenings stretched longer. I no longer jumped at the sound of a car slowing down outside or a knock at the door. Still, grief doesn't disappear when conflict ends. It just changes its shape. Some nights, I'd sit on the back porch with a mug of tea growing cold in my hands, listening to cicadas hum in the dark. Marcus used to say they sounded like the house breathing. I never understood what he meant until I was alone inside it. There were days I missed him so fiercely it felt physical, like a bruise that never quite healed. But there was also a new feeling growing alongside the grief. Confidence. Not loud, not dramatic. Quiet, rooted, earned. One afternoon, about 3 months after Denise stopped coming around, I found an old box in the garage. It was tucked behind paint cans and holiday decorations, half forgotten. Inside were photographs, notes, a few folded cards Marcus had written over the years, birthdays, anniversaries, Even a random grocery list with a heart drawn next to milk. I sat on the concrete floor and laughed through tears. This was our life. Not paperwork. Not entitlement. Not power games. Just moments. That night, I made a decision I'd been avoiding. I invited a few people over. Not family drama. Not explanations. Just friends who had held me up quietly, brought meals without asking questions, sat with me in silence when words felt impossible. We ate in the dining room where Denise once sat with her folder. The table looked different now, candles, soft light, laughter. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was reclaiming space. I felt like I was living in it. A week later, I received an email from Denise. Short. Careful. I hope you're well. I didn't intend for things to go the way they did. I'm trying to move forward. No apology. No accountability. But also, no threat. I read it once. Then I closed my laptop. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's silence that finally feels safe. I spoke with my attorney one last time to finalize everything. Locks changed. Documents secured. Boundaries reinforced. When she asked if I wanted to pursue further action against Denise for harassment, I shook my head. No, I said. I just want peace. She smiled. That's strength. I thought about that on the drive home. Strength isn't winning. Strength is choosing not to fight battles that no longer belong to you. As seasons changed, so did I. I traveled a little. Took a class I'd always put off. Learned how to cook meals for one without feeling sorry for myself. And sometimes on quiet mornings, I'd talk to Marcus out loud while watering the plants. I handled it, I'd say softly. Like you knew I would. The house listened. The walls held the sound. I didn't move. I didn't downsize. I didn't erase him. I built forward. Grief taught me many things, but the most important was this. Love doesn't end at death, but control should. I learned to trust myself again. To read the fine print. To listen when my intuition whispered instead of waiting until it screamed. And I learned something else too, something I wish every woman knew before she had to learn it the hard way. Being kind doesn't mean being silent. Being gentle doesn't mean being weak. And love doesn't require surrendering your place in the world. Marcus gave me more than a house. He gave me proof. Proof that I belonged. Proof that I was chosen. Proof that, even in his final days, he saw me clearly and stood beside me in the only way he still could. Now, when I walk through the hallway in the evenings, the air feels warmer. Not because anything changed on the outside, but because I did. I don't know what Denise tells herself now. I don't know how she explains this chapter in her life. And honestly, I don't need to, because my story doesn't revolve around her anymore. It revolves around survival, and dignity, and the quiet power of standing your ground. Sometimes I still stand in the doorway at night and listen to the house settle. Old homes make sounds when the world gets quiet. Wood shifting, pipes ticking, the soft sigh of something releasing tension it's been holding all day. And every time I hear it, I think about how close I came to losing more than walls and windows. Grief already takes so much from you. It takes your future plans, your certainty, your sense of safety. What it shouldn't take is your place in the world. I used to believe that being good meant being accommodating. That staying quiet was the same as being respectful. That if I just endured enough, things would eventually soften on their own. But life taught me something different. Sometimes, love asks you to stand still. Sometimes, dignity asks you to speak. And sometimes, survival asks you to protect what was entrusted to you, even when it feels uncomfortable. Marcus didn't leave me just a house. He left me his voice, his foresight, and his trust. And honoring him meant honoring myself. If you're listening to this while carrying your own quiet battle, whether it's with family, grief, or the fear of losing what you've built, I hope you remember this. You don't have to disappear to keep the peace. You don't have to give up what's yours to prove you're kind. And you don't owe anyone your silence. So I'll leave you with a question, the same way I ask myself sometimes when the house is quiet and the memories feel close. If you were in my place, would you have stood your ground? Tell me in the comments. And if this story spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and support the channel so more voices like mine can be heard.